Hello, everybody. Hey, happy day. Dan, Nick, back at you for a little wrapping that thing up. Wrap it up. The wrap up. 93rd edition. Dan, it's a true pleasure.
As always.
Yeah, I don't know if we should just jump right into it, if I should be truly upset, angry, fierce, rowdy. I'll let you kick off the show today so I can take my final breaths before I snap.
Yeah, well, it's that time. March 1st is at 3 p.m. is the trade deadline for the NHL, and the Red Wings looking to be some sellers this year. Hopefully they can pick up a nice name. If not, just something that can revitalize the organization and keep them as a strong contender for the NHL, NHL's best. And maybe they could hopefully make some lengthy playoff runs or once it resets at the end of the season. I'm not trying to be Mr. Pessimistic, but you got to be a realist sometimes. And the way the Wings are playing this year, I feel like that's what's going to happen. So hopefully with this trade deadline, not only myself, but Nick is happy with the outcome and the results of it. So far we're seeing some deals. I think you and I can collectively say that we are happy with it thus far. I'm not fully satisfied yet, but it's on its way there.
Yeah, definitely. The breaking news as we sat down to do our show was the fact of Brendan Smith being traded from the Detroit Red Wings. They sent Smith to the New York Rangers in exchange for a second-round pick and a third-round pick, both in the 2017 draft. So a lot of fans are not happy, or we're not happy with the performance of Brendan Smith. You and I included. I remember last season I had a garbage can on the show.
and that actually stopped up.
Yeah, that was actually Brendan Smith. So he will now be the New York Rangers problem, and the Red Wings were able to cash in on a pair of draft picks. And I'm really happy about those two, that what the return on a guy like Brendan Smith was. The word was contract talks were in the works the last week or so. The Red Wings wanted to sign Smith to a contract extension, and the two sides couldn't come eye to eye. And the final offer on Tuesday morning from the Red Wings, I guess, was around $3.25 million per year for 3 seasons. Smith was all right with the term. He felt he was more of a $5 million a year kind of player. And let's be honest, I don't know who he thinks he is or what kind of player he thinks he is. No, and the Red Wings would not go up in price. Smith would not come down. Hence, the deal gets done.
Yeah, and I think that's a sign of maturity. Something's working upstairs with Ken Holland, because I feel like the old Ken Holland of even last year.
This is his last chance.
Yeah.
But, does this at all remind you of last year, Dave Dombrowski, for the first time in a while, the Tigers were sellers at the trade deadline. They sold off David Price. They sold off Yoenis Cespedes. They sold off Joakim Soria. And they got a bunch of young prospects. And a month later, Mike Ilitch fires Dave Dombrowski. After he did what could have been one of the best things that happened for the Tigers in recent history, other than the big signings Dombrowski had, obviously the trade for Miguel Cabrera and revitalizing the city, bringing in Pudge. But that was good for the future. I mean, they got Daniel Norris. They got the Rookie of the Year and a Cy Young finalist in Michael Fulmer. They got Jacoby Jones, who's probably going to be a pretty good outfielder. He can hit the ball. It's just Matt Boyd as well, a left-handed starting pitcher. Guys who have bright futures with great upside, and they sold off players who they weren't going to be able to re-sign, so you might as well get something for them. We saw what happened when they tried to rekindle the flame with Max Scherzer. He walked, and they got nothing for him. So he learned from that mistake, and it ended up costing him his job, which made me scratch my head. I'm not sure I'm a big Al Avila or Avila, whatever the pronunciation you choose is. Not sure I'm a fan of that. But if Ken Holland's doing the same thing, I know there's no more Mike Ilitch, but Chris Ilitch definitely has been, we'll say, calling the shots for about the last 5 years for that regime. Is Holland making a last-ditch effort, or is he looking at the future of him managing this team?
You know, that's a great point. And I think that the fact that I feel like there's this pressure if we can feel it just from the observers, the fans, the media, the journalists, stuff, the bloggers.
Sports blogger Dan Myers.
They know there's pressure. So I'm sure if it's that apparent from the outside that, the inside, there's turmoil, there's pressure. And I like where you're going with that. If, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is make or break. You are backs to the wall. You got to pull something out. You can pull something big out, or you're gone. Which I feel like he's already on his way out. Who knows though? I mean, we've
Let
seen
me
worse.
interrupt real fast, though. a name that comes up a lot, we talked about the source with the closed-door meeting with Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman appears to be selling at the trade deadline as well. He's sold off Brian Boyle. He has sold off Ben Bishop in a huge blockbuster trade to the LA Kings. Now they have Bishop and Jonathan Quick. Very confusing situation there. But what gets me is they're only 4 points out of the playoffs, and they're selling some key pieces. This is now Andre Vasilevsky's crease to man. Steve Yzerman, I guess they're saying he's the goalie for the future. But what does that leave the team? Is Steve building for his future there? Or is he just saying, you know what, I'm going to make a splash because I know I'm not going to be here much longer? It really makes you scratch your head and think about the future of a lot of teams in the NHL, especially right here in the Detroit Red Wings. And are they going to move Vanek? Are they going to move Drew Miller? They recalled him. Timu Pulkkinen was traded yesterday as well. He was in the Minnesota Wild organization, and he was traded to the Arizona Coyotes. They have a lot of good young talent. I'm not saying Pulkkinen's going to flourish. I mean, he didn't even make the team in Minnesota. By the way, Minnesota, my pick to win the Stanley Cup this year.
Ooh.
Made a big Martin Hansel trade, and that's huge, picking him up from Arizona. It's the most exciting time of the year.
It is.
You love July 1st, it's free agent signing, but you love March 1st because it's the trade deadline. People are making moves. They're not standing still, my good men. So what will happen? What I like to think of, we're talking about for the last 5 years, is rebuilding on the fly. And, I mean, it worked to an extent. You still kept your playoff streak intact. And they thought they were going to be able to have Gustav Nyquist and Thomas Tatar and Riley Shea and Jimmy Howard lead this team and get them, be the next Datsuk and Zetterbergs and Nick Lidstrom's and Nick Cronwalls. And it didn't happen that way. These guys have been an uber disappointment. Gus Nyquist has 7 goals this year from a guy who's scored 30 twice. It's just Riley Sheahan. We know about him. He is drawing trade value from I don't know how. You could get him at a discounted rate this year.
Yeah.
He's 24 years old. He was a 15th or 10th overall pick not too long ago. Big body, good shot, wins you draws, can center your third and fourth line and play good penalty kill minutes. And apparently in Detroit he can play on the power play. But what can you get for him? I still believe you can get a first round pick or at worst a conditional second.
Right.
But I don't know. People are saying I'm off my gourd. They're saying you'll be lucky to get a new Zamboni driver and maybe a washing machine. That was the reaction on Twitter yesterday when I guaranteed, that's right, folks, guaranteed Riley Sheahan would not be a Red Wing on March 2nd.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of, all the blogs, all the articles I've been reading, there's a lot of interest from Toronto. With Riley Sheahan. Hey, if we can pick him up and let him go, that's great. You know, that's, you and I've talked about it a lot. You've talked about it a lot. You know, it's just there's a certain formula that the Wings have, and you know you might not fit in that formula in Detroit, but you can prosper somewhere else. And you know if that's going to work for him and help the Wings out also, you know, let's take it. I'll be the first one to push him out the door if that's the case.
That's the only way. I'll push him out the door, even if that's not the case.
Right, exactly. But you know, if we can get some talent with that, we'll see. I like that there's value, there's hope, and going back to what you're saying with Yzerman, you know, is he building for the future, for his legacy, or is he know he's on his way out and making a splash? It gives me some hope that we may see Stevie Y back in Detroit.
Let's not.
It's
right. No, we didn't say anything there, but we both were on the same page. Yeah. I want to take you back to March 5th, 2014, trade deadline day. Red Wings on the outside looking in to extend their streak to, at the time, that would be 23 straight years. And they needed depth. They were injured, battered, bruised. So they trade for a local boy, who's not really a boy, he's an aging man now, David Legwand. And what they gave up boggles my mind still to this day. I didn't like it then, and I certainly don't like it now. They gave up Cale Yarncroke, who was one of the brightest prospects that not a lot of people knew about. He's now playing on the top line in Nashville, scoring 18 goals at the age of 21. They gave up Patrick Eaves, who was a product of the Red Wing way. He barely played on the fourth line. Scored maybe 5 to 8 goals a season. Penalty killed. He gets traded to Nashville and then gets moved to Dallas, where he now plays, well, before he was traded to Anaheim last week, he played on the top line with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. Scored 28 goals this year. Scored 30 last year. Leads the NHL in power play goals with 18. And he could barely crack the lineup here in Detroit. He's the same player he was then. He wasn't this young, oh, I'm not seasoned enough yet. No, he was definitely a veteran when we had him. 32 years old, 31 years old. Just, it's the right style of environment, the way they play hockey. The Red Wings will never have a star. I'm determined. I'm going back to Sergei Fedorov. Sure, you could have those good leaders, those hard fuck guys. Obviously, Steve Yzerman's a dynamic superstar. But you won't have a guy who's going to score you 40 goals.
Right.
You just won't. It's not the way the Red Wings play. They're going to pass the puck. They're pass, not shoot. They're 27th in the NHL in shots. They're just simply not going to shoot. They pass and turn the puck over, and it's man rush, and your garbage can Brendan Smith's back there. It's not the way the Red Wings play. They never have those dynamic goal scorers. Sure, Tatar and Nyquist scored 30 goals 2 years ago, but no one else scored.
Yeah.
You look at these teams like Pittsburgh, where you got 2 30-goal scorers, a 25-goal scorer, a couple guys with 22. And here you got the Red Wings. Patrick Eaves goes somewhere, scores 28.
Like the powerhouse that Dallas was.
He scored 3, his best year with Detroit. Not literally, but I'm just going out and saying. Oh, and by the way, we also gave up a third-round draft pick in that trade on March 5th, 2014 for David Legwand. He got us into the playoffs. I'm not saying he's the reason why. He was a fourth-line center. We gave up that for a fourth-line center. Oh, no, don't worry. We can go up to the following year, March 1st, 2015, where the Red Wings again find themselves on the outside looking in to make 24 consecutive playoffs. So they need to make a move. They, in fact, made 2. One was not bad. Marek Zidlitsky, they got from the New Jersey Devils for a conditional 6th-round pick. That's basically free. Sure, thanks, we'll take it. But this one, the one everyone's like, I think this is a really underrated trade. Ken Holland might be back, baby. Let's do it. The Red Wings trade away Matthias Backman and Matthias Janmark and a 2nd-round pick in 2015 for Eric Cole. Okay? Eric Cole had been battered with injury, had concussion problems for 10 years, but he won a Stanley Cup in 06 or 07. Whenever Carolina won the Cup, he was on that team. They called him the T-Rex. They called him a fossil. The dude was crumbling, made of dust. So what do? We give up Matthias Backman, who was a 2nd-round pick of the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of upside. And Matthias Janmark, who in the playoffs that year with Dallas played on their 2nd line and scored goals, game-winning goals in overtime, and still plays, until injured, of course, on their top 6 and crucial penalty or power play time. So now Dallas had, at that time, Backman, who played 4th line but played, a 2nd-round pick, Janmark, and eventually got Patrick Eaves. And what do we have to show for it currently right now? Nothing, Dan. Nothing. David Legwand. Oh, he's out cruising around Lake St. Clair. You know when you go to Buffalo after Detroit, normally old stars go to Detroit to die.
Right.
Look at Mike Modano, Darian Hatcher, all these got Daniel Alfredson. They still think they got a year left in their dinosaur tank. They come here. No, there's no fossil fuel running anymore on the Detroit River. We're cleaning that up. Eric Cole, Gramps. No, we don't have him anymore. He, in fact, only played 5 or 6 games and then severed his spine pretty much. He had like spinal something, and the doctor said, you can never play again.
Yeah.
All right, great. We're super. Let's go back more. Dan, I know I've cut. You've been mute over here.
No, this is terrific.
Okay, we talk trades. That's fine. All right, we can talk that all we want. But I want to talk about Kenny Holland's free agent signings. Let's take you back to 2009, when I believe the downfall of the Detroit dynasty began.
Yes.
You had two 30-goal scorers in Johan Franzen and Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa, in his one season with Detroit, he signed a 1-year, $7.62 million contract the year in 2009. Okay? He scored 40 goals and had 31 assists. Now, you can say, wow, I didn't realize he was that good when he played here. I knew he was Marian Hossa, he was good. But I didn't realize 40 goal good, 71 points good. Johan Franzen had 34 goals and was a beast in the playoffs. Now, you can't re-sign both of them. So do you take the guy who scored 30 to 40 goals every season of his NHL career and is still in his early 30s? Actually 30 years old, exact. Or do you take a guy who's an unknown and only been in the league, he's been in the league about 8 years, and he's only been 30 goal-ish too, with concussion problems his whole career? Ken Holland says, well, I like the way Franzen's playing. We're not going to try to sign Marian Hossa because we know we can't get both of them. Let's pay Franzen. Let's pay him until 2020. That's a 12-year deal, folks. 12. At something around an average of $5.25 to $6 million a year for a guy you don't know what you're going to get. So I split it up. Since that, starting in 2009, 2010, when we had Franzen, Chicago had Hossa, he went there, signed a 12-year deal where he still plays and still produces. In 2010, Marian Hossa scored 24 goals. Johan Franzen scored 34. Good move, Kenny. Great move. In 2011, Marian Hossa scored 25 goals. Johan Franzen scored 10. Next year, Hossa 29. Franzen 28. Following year, Hossa only 17. Oh boy. Franzen 29. Oh man. Uh-oh. Oh, here's where it gets fun. Right when you know longevity. Something Johan Franzen, you can't even turn a light on in his bedroom, and he has a headache for a month. Guy's even strapped on skates in 2 years. Hossa's still scoring 30 a year. Was that mean? Maybe. I'm not knocking Franzen. I'm knocking Kenny Holland. It's not his fault you got these concussions.
Right.
Let's take you to where it turns around. Following year, Hossa had 30 goals, Franzen 14. 22 for Hossa, 16. And then, now here's where it gets real fun. 22 for Hossa, 33 games only played for Franzen, he had 7. Oh, and then last year, Franzen played 2 games, scored 0 goals, where Hossa had a down year, only scored 13, battled through some injuries, but he's back this year, he already has 21 goals. Franzen hasn't even been to Joe Louis Arena yet. Okay? So, where's the money well spent? Oh, wait, Dan. I know. There's more. I'll get to it after you react. I realize
I feel
running out of breath.
Yeah, no, that's a terrific point. I love what you did with the breakdown, with the points. And you know, you're gonna get the optimist, the Kenny Holland optimism. Well, you gotta look at the lines that Hossa was playing with. He's playing with some of the top leaders in the NHL. All right, albeit, let's cut those goals in half.
Look who Franzen played with, though.
That's true.
Datsuk and Zetterberg. I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah, that's very true. With that being said, though, even you cut those goals in half and supplement them with assists or points, you're still going to get Hossa outperforming Franzen. And there's one thing you have to do is you can't just look at the here and now. You have to look at patterns, trends that you see with the players. And Marian Hossa, marquee name. I mean, he's coming from Pittsburgh, who he compared or played with names like Crosby and Malkin, and just a terrific. So he learned from some of the best. I feel like that's a cohesive unit when he was playing in Pittsburgh, and you learned from the best. And so to bring that talent to Detroit to help us fix the problem that we had, it's just it's unfortunate and it's frustrating. I feel like Franzen's the red herring of Ken Holland's downfall. No, it's Ken Holland who's dropping the ball with this. And going back to what you touched on earlier is, we had all this terrific talent But these players can go and explode on other teams. I mean, like you were saying with Patrick Eaves, and I think that comes down to the general manager and the direction that the team's going, and that has a lot to do with coaching. When's the last time we saw multiple 40-goal scorers or 40 points?
Never.
It was Scotty Bowman, and it's apparent right there that it's a coaching problem. And I know I'm beating a dead horse by saying this. And well, Dan, what do? Should you let Blashill go? I don't know, but you start shopping the market if they haven't already. You really haven't heard too much.
Michel Therrien's available.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Right.
I really don't.
If you're going to start making moves like this, you really need to start looking for coaches too, because you can have all the terrific talent. We have terrific talent here, and it's not being utilized. And it's unfortunate that we're going to lose some of this before we even turn this boat around. And this boat's taking on a lot of water, and I hope we can, get out while we're ahead, and it's not too much of a loss. And that's what's freaking me out. And I know you have a lot more to say, and it's just probably going to scare me more to see where this is going, because it's just going to get worse. So, Nick, continue.
I'm going to take you back a little bit before 2014 to a year they call 2013, where the Red Wings lost Jim Nill, the assistant to the general manager. He went to Dallas. That's when we started giving Dallas all of our talent. Patrick Eaves. He saw something in Eaves he must have liked. Jan Markin Backman. He must have seen something there as well.
And what happened with Dallas once this started going on?
Oh, I don't know. They only traded for Tyler Seguin, one of the league's most elite players. Yeah. They have Jamie Benn. They picked up Ales Hemsky. They have Jason Spezza, Patrick Eaves, Cody Eakin. They drafted John Klingberg, who's one of the league's best defensemen. They picked up Johnny Oduya, Trevor Daley. They're a good team.
Listen to that lineup.
They're a good hockey team. And the Wings are just still stuck in 1995.
Yeah.
They think that the league's not the same. Everyone's caught on to this European style of hockey. You're not the only ones looking in the Czech Republic and in Sweden and in Russia for players. Look around. Canadian and American players are now in the minority. And the Red Wings were the only team who looked there. And that's why they were so different, unique team, and that's why they were good. Well, guess what? Newsflash, Kenny. Everyone caught up to you. How are you going to adjust? Clearly, you're not.
Congratulations. You are the Microsoft of hockey. Yes, you are a pinnacle trailblazer. But now nobody wants your product. Everyone's going with Apple. And I'm sorry if that's a poor comparison, but to me that's most apparent right now. You're trying so hard to keep up, but you're just treading water and looking foolish.
I can tell you're a Red Wings fan. You don't have an iPhone. So you haven't made the switch to Apple, so you're still in the Red Wings.
Exactly,
with the rest of the league. 2013 also, Valtteri Filppula wanted $5 million a year. They said, nah, see ya. And instead they signed Stephen Weiss for $4.9 million over 5 years. He should still be on the team. We're within 5 years. Oh, that's right. They bought him out after 2. They paid him to go away. Don't worry, they made another signing that offseason for $5.5 million, 1-year deal. Daniel the Corpse Alfredson. He was rotting in Ottawa. And they're like, still got a year left. Don't get me wrong, he was a good leader off the ice, wore the A for his season. But why do we take these old, dusty players? You just put a blade on the bottom of their coffin and put them out on the right wing. It boggles my skull, folks.
That's their MO.
Boggles my skull.
It worked so great in 02.
Well, you could look at that. You had Brett Hall, Luc Robitaille,
right.
Dominic Hasek, not to mention you already had Yzerman, Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov.
Yeah.
It's just boggling the skull. Oh, there's more. The next year, Yuri Hudler was sent to walk. Bye, they said. Oh, and only in his second year in Calgary, he puts up 31 goals, 45 assists, and is second in the NHL in points. So you're telling me the guys that played on the third and fourth line on the Red Wings can do that? Riley Sheahan's going to score 50 next year when they get rid of him for a conditional 11th round pick.
11th round.
It makes, you know what? I don't know. I don't know anymore. I've come to the point where bulldoze Joe Louis Arena and just forget about everything. because this is not the team of history. Let those banners stay in there, because let me tell you, Ken Holland, he's wearing out his welcome real fast.
Oh, I think it's already gone.
New beginnings at LCA.
Yeah.
Hopefully a new look, and not this dump and chase. They dump and chase, but they're too slow. They can't go get it. They dump it in, and the other team, it's a turnover. There you go. Feel free. There's Abdelkader piling in after it. Probably going to take a stupid penalty and cheap shot the goalie as he skates by, nowhere near the play. Or Z or Vanek's going to go in after it at the speed of a snail.
Yeah.
Or don't worry, Athanasiou and Larkin are quick. They'll go, no, they'll fall because they skate out of their own skates. I don't know anymore. I think I just talked myself into hating this team.
You know what?
And I love them.
Yeah, you do. Turning this into a local angle. The last time I saw a team in the Detroit metro area do a dump and chase was this weekend. It was a high school team called Dakota doing the dump and chase.
How'd that work
and
out
it
for
worked.
them?
That's true.
They lost.
But they did put points on the board. That's the big difference. Yes, they did lose. Terrific game, by the way. But it's so frustrating. And with you saying these third and fourth line guys are going and excelling in different markets and teams, what does that say about our leadership then? And by leadership, I mean your first and second line guys. Yes, they're probably what was getting you into the playoffs, but then again, a lot of injuries were going on with our key players. And unfortunately, you got to reevaluate your talent. Now, what do you do with this? I don't know. There's a big coaching situation on our hands along with the general manager situation.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Trade deadline will be updated on the next edition of the wrap-up. For now, we talked through the whole show. Normally we hear words from our friends. Folks, we must have just lost our friends because they're not talking today. It's just me and Dan Myers, just like we do each and every week. 93 straight weeks, that is. I'm going to crinkle this up, and hopefully all of the Red Wings demons are in here. And I'll
Yes.
just toss them right out the way. Dan Myers, Nick Buckler. We're saying deuces for now until we meet again. Sleep tight.